For my next challenge, I'm going to be reading Anna Karenina, all 900 and something pages of it, and I'm gonna try and do it in 10 days. To be honest, I don't really know what this book is about. All I know is that it's about someone called Anna, and she has an extramarital affair for almost 1,000 pages, which, fair enough. I'm intrigued by the simplicity of that. Obviously the plot doesn't sound too complex, so I'm wondering why it took 1,000 pages to explain. The only other Tolstoy I have read is The Death of Ivan Illich, and that was very recent, and that's like 80 pages, and I did enjoy it, so I'm a little bit optimistic. As per usual, I'll keep you updated on my progress. Wish me luck. God, it's so heavy. Anyway. We are 10 pages in, and I'm pretty pleasantly surprised so far by how short the chapters are. It really keeps a natural pace. Other than that, I haven't come across any epic speeches yet. Crime and Punishment had a lot of those. Crime and Punishment was my only comparator. I'm a Russian literature newbie. But yeah, I feel like classics are often super verbose, and this isn't at all. I'm not super gripped, but I'm only 10 pages in, so I just wanted to give you the little first impressions check-in. Okay. I feel like setting a challenge to finish this in 10 days veers slightly into competitive reading culture that I don't want to get too deep into. Having said that, with these kind of books, I just know that if I don't intentionally try to set a pace, I will tail off. With a book of this size, you either do it in a few weeks or you read it across several decades. Hello, we are 60 pages in. I have 3 things to say. First of all, this is adorable because I realised that I got it as a prize. I received it in 2010, finally coming around to reading it. Secondly, it has a really cool little bookmark built in. Look at that, which I'm not used to, feels very fancy. And thirdly, we haven't met Anna yet, which is kind of interesting. It's wild how deep you go into other characters. I wonder if once you meet Anna, it mostly focuses on her, or whether there are a billion other stories going on. It hasn't actually grabbed me yet. So far it's just kind of men talking about wanting to marry people. One more thing. I heard that this book was very atmospheric. It really described Russia at that time incredibly vividly, and I get that, so it's fun in that sense too. We are 160 pages in, I think. I've had a very big weekend. It was my birthday, and in case you can't tell, I did karaoke for my birthday. So I haven't really had time to do much reading, but I am really enjoying myself. I haven't been picking up the book much simply because I haven't had the time and not because I don't want to pick it up. Speaking of picking up the book, it's so heavy, it makes the reading experience a bit more awkward. The more I look, the scarier my hair gets. So first of all, we have finally met Anna, and we had that first meeting, that first lovers meeting, and I have to say I really enjoyed that passage. The description of Anna, she felt like a bit of an icon, a bit of a modern woman. I also watched the film. Sorry, I didn't watch the film. I watched the advert for the film, and it was interesting seeing Keira Knightley cast as Anna. I feel like it was in that time where Keira Knightley was just the lead in every single period piece. Even though I don't know Anna that well yet, I think it actually isn't a very accurate cast. Anyway, I'll definitely be watching the film after I finish this book. You've also already got some really good symbolism. It's very clear that Anna and Vronsky are in love, and the woman who also fancied Vronsky is like very heartbroken about it, and I kind of enjoyed how they showed that and how they showed Anna knowing her. Kitty suggests Anna should wear a certain dress, turns up at the event and Anna doesn't wear it. It actually reminded me of that TikTok sound that went around that was like, you should get the orange soda, and then I hear it's great, and then the person's like, oh okay, but then when the waiter comes around they don't get the orange soda. That's what Anna not wearing the dress that Kitty suggested, that's the energy it had. I also really enjoy how other people realise that Anna and Vronsky are in love before they really do. I'm a bit of a fan of that trope, being in denial that you fancy someone but like the whole world can tell. Finally, the funny conversation I had at the weekend, I mentioned that I was reading Anna Karenina, and the woman I was talking to, the friend. She basically said that about halfway through you get several hundred pages that are just describing the Russian countryside, and I don't know whether that's just like her trauma and that's how she's describing it, and it's actually not that bad, it's actually not that long, but I'm intrigued to get to that section, and I'll let you know when I do. I want to try and get to part 3 because I've been reading this now for like 5 days and I'm just insanely behind. I still have faith, but it's kind of delusional faith at this point. Hey guys, we are 6 days in. I'm 300 pages in. I am really enjoying it. In particular, I am really enjoying the character Anna, but for a book that's named after her, we're not actually seeing loads of her so far. We're getting a bit sidetracked. I am actually encountering the farmland countryside stuff a little bit, but I am actually enjoying it. One scene that I particularly enjoyed was when Anna's lover competes in a race, and it just felt like a very obvious metaphor and a great opportunity for like foreshadowing. I'm hoping that's not how this ends, but I think it might be how it ends. So we've got that to look forward to. We are currently 10 days into the challenge and I have reached the halfway point, or maybe even just under. I don't want to talk about it. This book is so chunky to read. I feel like the writing is really small. It's just classic. You think it's long because it's almost 1,000 pages, but you forget that it's also long because there are so many more words per page. So it's hard. It's hard, and I failed my original challenge and I'm kind of sad about it, but equally I'm still enjoying myself. So we're still winning in a sense. But I also have met a lot of the farmland stuff. Like I'm learning a lot about Russian peasant culture, which to be fair is quite interesting. It's not the juice I came here for, but I'm pretty happy with it nonetheless. I'm learning a lot about the politics of the time. We've got a farmer who's kind of going through a period of change and finding himself and understanding what politics he aligns himself with, and trying to make his farm fruitful. It feels very separate to the main Anna story. I'm intrigued as to whether this is going to converge in a big way. Also, I find it kind of weird because Anna as a character, she's the titular lady, and yet I just don't feel like I know that much about her as a person. I feel like sometimes we meet random characters that we never see again and they just get described in so much detail. Whereas Anna, considering she's the main character, I feel like I don't know that much about her. And then I was kind of thinking this, and then I read this thing at the back of the book. What is Anna's true personality? It remains to the end not an enigma, but a factor and a phenomenon that is infinitely variable, like life itself. In case it isn't obvious, I was about to get into bed, and I was like, I've got to update the team. I've got to let them know how I'm doing. We are just over 600 pages in. It is weird to think that I could have read multiple books in the time that I've just crossed the halfway point of one book, and it definitely just changes the reading experience completely. It's not a fast-paced book. I think we knew this, but yeah, it really takes its time, and that is where the value is, but there have been points when I'm a little bit tired. The whole structure is kind of cool because you'll follow a different character each chapter, and sometimes you'll have scenes repeated but just from a slightly different perspective. There are some things that I've been finding kind of funny. Anna is... I'm about to talk about a spoiler for like 10 seconds. Is that a spoiler? Anyway, Anna's left her husband and she has like left her child with him, and she just like doesn't really care that much. And she says the book, it's like Anna didn't really care that much about the child she'd left. I feel like she probably would care, but I don't know, maybe in fancy society you barely raise your kid anyway. You're just so rich that other people do it, and like she never really knew him anyway. Okay, better get back to reading then, I guess. We have 100 pages to go and I'm just loving this book, and I'm really trying to think about why I'm enjoying it so much, and I think I've cracked the code. It's very, very character driven, especially when you consider its length. Not that much happens. There is a degree of excitement just because they are these glamorous super wealthy, upper class Russian people. So because they're rich, it's kind of interesting learning about the private lives of the elite. But beyond that, there isn't that much drama. And I just think what I'm really loving is the detail in the characters. The characters are also explained through the conversations they have with other characters. You get a lot of tiny moments, tiny exchanges that are incredibly meaningful. If anything, the backdrop of not much drama is kind of part of the joy. Having said that, who knows what's going to happen in the last 100 pages? I certainly don't. It's currently a tale that makes me feel very sad. I wonder if it's going to make me feel sadder or happier when I find out what the conclusion looks like. I don't know. Okay, before I start this reading session, sorry, I realise the lighting's awful, I'm going to try some kefir for the first time. Not relevant, but I thought it was important that you guys understand the context to me reading the last 100 pages of Anna Karenina. Oh my goodness, what a loud lid. This is a vanilla kefir. Ooh, it's very thick. It's more similar to the yogurt that I'm familiar with than I thought it would be. And it's nice. I quite like this because it's not actually that sweet. Well, that wasn't terribly eventful, but I'm glad you were here for it. Okay, we're gonna let me be really immature for a moment. I just love the little moments where language was used in a different way back then and just like doesn't translate well in the modern day. When he returned to the country in June, he went back to his ordinary occupations: husbandry, intercourse with the peasants and with his neighbours, management of his house. Babe, where are you going? Oh yeah, just intercourse with the peasants and the neighbours, the usual, you know. 18 days later and I have finally finished Anna Karenina, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So glad I spent the time to read this 1,000 page behemoth. In terms of Big Scary Book Club, because obviously this is a part of this experience, reading the big scary books and then telling you how I found them, whether they're as big and scary as I thought they'd be. This book was as big and scary as I thought it would be, but not for the reasons that I thought it would be. A lot of people said it was really easy to read, which is true in that the language isn't incredibly complicated and there aren't loads of really long-winded speeches and things, but just because of the size of it and the pace of it, it feels like a bit of a grind. Like, you do need to be concentrating quite hard. There are also quite a few kind of philosophical questions in there. There's a lot of just random weaving in and out, and I do think that's part of the beauty of the book. It's very realistic. It really does feel like you're following real people, and the stories aren't necessarily wrapped up in neat little bows. I think that actually maybe is even one of my favourite aspects of this book, but it's not like you're just being spoon-fed milestones to keep you reading. Sometimes you do have to put that energy in yourself. Having said that, I was never afraid to pick it up or not keen to continue reading. Even the moments that were slower, I don't know, I was just intrigued. Something I found really unexpected actually is you have this character Levin who is acquainted with Anna, and he knows a lot of people that Anna knows, and he is sort of relevant, but he doesn't touch Anna's life that much. And I would say the book almost focuses more on him and his life. So I just think it's kind of interesting that the Anna story and her story it's like the melody that goes on top, and then Levin's life and just his thoughts and his ups and his downs are like a backdrop, but a very pronounced backdrop. I feel like there were parts that I was missing from his journey and how it connected to Anna. I'm just convinced there's a layer that I'm really not getting. But to be honest, it's made me quite excited to just read more about this book and just find out a bit more about what other people think of this book. But yeah, I think that's it. If you're tempted to read this book, I implore you to. I would actually advise, obviously I didn't manage to read it in 10 days, but I definitely would say you want to read this in as short a time as possible. Don't rush through it, but just have a little goal to keep that rhythm up, because you want to be quite immersed in the story. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely week, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.